Before I start this video, I just want to remind you all to know your status and the status of your partner. Please get your home health test kits and your sexual home health test kits at the sponsored link below. Please don't guess and gamble with your health. What's good, YouTube? This video is going to be about what men think when you ask where you stand or when you start the conversation about what are we. I'm still answering questions from the comment section of that video that I dropped the other day. So this one says, can men get turned off if women ask if they are interested in a relationship or wanting to know where they stand? So basically, what men think about when women bring that conversation up about what are we doing, and if it turns them off. I'm gonna be honest with you. If a guy has plans for you, you are not turning him off if you ask what we're doing, where do we stand, where is this going. He's looking forward to that conversation. He's not dreading it. He's not off put by it. He's not like, oh shit. Right? Because he wants that conversation. He's where you are. You are in alignment with each other. You want the same things. Now, when a man doesn't want the same things as you, when you're not in alignment, when you've been sleeping with a guy and not knowing what he wants, which is foolish, by the way, but you've been sleeping with a guy and not knowing what he wants, offering yourself up to him, playing girlfriend, and then you ask, what are we doing? And he's like, oh my God, this. He never had anything for you to begin with. He's not turned off by you asking that. He's turned off by him finally being required to stand for something in this relationship. He's turned off by the possibility of not getting more of this or getting it, but having to disappoint you first. He's turned off by the level of intimacy that you're asking for because he doesn't want that level. All he wants is whatever you've been getting. I don't know a guy who's ever been turned off by a woman wanting more who he's actually wanted in the beginning. If a guy wants you, he wants you. He might not start that conversation, but he'll be glad when it came. If a guy doesn't want you, he'll give you that stuff about not being ready, not being emotionally available, not really looking for a girlfriend, just wanting to have fun, just wanting to keep doing what we're doing, all of those things. But you didn't turn him off, and he didn't start to believe that simply because you asked about where you stood. He always believed those things, and he was going to sleep with you, he was going to use you, he was going to be with you until you required more. And at this point, he realized that you might be requiring more. So that's what's off-putting. But just because you ask that doesn't mean a guy is all of a sudden not into you or off-put by you or turned off. It's not like he's horny 24 hours a day and you're like, hey, are we going to be boyfriend and girlfriend? And he like shrivels up or something. It has nothing to do with him being turned on. A man's intention does not change based on your inquisition about what his intention is. I was going to do what I was going to do regardless. Just because you asked me what I was going to do doesn't mean I'm changing now what I was going to do. That doesn't make sense. That's counterintuitive. That's not realistic. Most guys know what they want from you, and they're either getting it or they're growing towards it. So if a guy is growing toward a relationship and you say, hey, listen, I don't know what we're doing. Where are we going? Where's this going? Where do we stand? He's like, well, I want what you want, and I think we're working on that. Let's try to move faster. Let's be more intentional about growing in this particular direction. I want to be with you. That's what I want. What do you want? Or he'll say, hey, well, what do you want this to be? How do you feel? Do you feel like, you maybe be ready for something else? I know I might be ready for something else. He's going to answer the question. He's not going to be put off by it and be like, oh, you tripping. I'm going to leave you alone. I'm turned off by this. I can't believe you're bringing this up. Any guy who's doing that was only really wanting to do exactly what you were doing before you asked that question. Whatever that level of activity was. But if he hadn't reached sex yet, he's going to want to reach sex before he cuts things off. And now he knows that question means that he either has to be honest about what he wants, or he has to disappoint you, or he has to lie to get to the next level with you sexually if he hasn't already experienced it with you. That's why he's put off. That's why he's irritated if you experience that. But no man who wants you is going to be irritated by you asking him if he wants you. That question alone isn't going to change the trajectory of his thoughts, his behaviors, his habits, patterns, and practices. Most of the time when a woman's asked that, it's because a guy hasn't made what he wants and what he's trying to do very clear. He's been ambiguous in certain ways and very clear in other ways. And so she's trying to clear up the ambiguity, and she's also trying to make sure that she has a right to feel the way she's feeling and the way she's growing to feel about him. A guy who won't give you that opportunity, a guy who acts like he doesn't understand your need for clarity, was never going to give you a relationship. Not a good one anyway. Because if he doesn't understand your need for clarity there, how could he understand your need for clarity or communication in a real relationship? He doesn't have that type of healthy relationship to give you because he's completely detached from your needs. All he knows about is what he wants, his convenience. He doesn't care about what your needs are. So no, if you ever get to a place where you're asking a guy where you stand, what you're doing, where this is going. And he's like, oh man, he's like irritated that you asked that. He wasn't going to go nowhere with you. That's his answer. Nothing. No plans at all whatsoever. No future. That's the answer. But people always get irritated when they lose a resource, whether it be sexual, financial, or energetic. So yeah, he's probably irritated, but he's irritated at the fact that he might be losing this resource because now you're trying to require something. Now again, that doesn't make him mean. That doesn't make him a bad guy. That doesn't mean he's being malicious or he's trying to use you. But sometimes men sit in that ambiguity and let a woman allow things to happen that they know won't lead anywhere, right? Because you're both adults, right? You both have to be held accountable for your actions. Too often women let things happen and then they look at the guy like it's his fault, like he was by himself having sex, when they wanted the same things, but they was rushing it because they wanted more than that. They wanted that and relationships. They wanted that and understanding, commitment, exclusivity, all of these things. But if you lay down with a guy, or if you're spending time with a guy, or you're investing in a guy who's not really sure or not really clear about what he wants, then when he tells you what he wants, when you finally ask the question and you don't like the answer, you're no victim because you should have required that clarity before you invested yourself. Never be afraid to get that clarity. Never. Especially if you're laying down with a guy. Anytime you're sleeping with a guy, he needs to at the very least, be in a position where he feels like he's obligated to answer a question like, what are we doing? If a guy won't answer that question, he probably doesn't respect you or he doesn't have a plan for you. Even if the answer is, well, I'm not really sure, I haven't thought that far ahead. In general, I'm not really sure, I haven't thought that far ahead is a no, I don't have any plans for you. Because no man is sleeping with a woman and hasn't already thought about, well, what if she wants more? If a guy doesn't want more, he's fearful of that conversation, so he's thought about it. If a guy does want more, then he's thought about it because he wants what you want. Almost never has a man slept with a woman and not thought about whether or not he wanted that or could see himself with her long term or not. Just like every time a man walks past a woman and every time some women walk past men, they either say yes or no in their minds about whether or not they would be with that person physically. Every time a person's with someone physically, they either say yes or no in their minds about whether or not they could date that person. Even if they're not looking to date. It's just one of those things that we do. It's as natural as two men walking past each other and secretly sizing each other up for a hypothetical fight that'll never happen. It's human nature. Of course he's thought about it. He just hasn't thought well about it. It's not looking well for you, so he'll avoid that and then he'll say, oh, well, you started being weird and I didn't want to do it then because you turned me off when you asked that question. That's bullshit. If you've ever heard it, that's crap. That's not what happened. He didn't have anything for you and you asked about it. He felt put on the spot and he's irritated that now you might take a resource away or stop having sex with him for free or doing things for him for free. So now he's mad. So now he's turned off because that's pressure, right? Now you have a conflict to resolve and that's pressure. Now you have to disappoint someone or be honest about what you're doing and that's pressure. So of course he has a problem with it. But any man who wants you will never have a problem with answering that question. He might have an issue communicating what he really wants because everybody has issues with communication, but he won't have an issue with you asking that question because you're in alignment with each other. So anyway, that's all I got for now. I hope that helps. Follow me at Kevin24 on Instagram. I'll get with y'all later.